am fantasy and paranormal romance author Leslye Penelope, and welcome to My Imaginary Friends, a look behind the scenes of an author mapping the worlds in my head and making them a reality.
Hello, friends. Today is Friday, January 9th, 2026, and this is episode 255 of My Imaginary Friends live. I'm Leslye. You can probably hear I'm a little bit congested. I started off the year fairly ill with the flu, but I had a long list of things I want to talk about today, and I am feeling better. I felt a little bit better yesterday. Today I'm feeling a lot better. So I figured I can probably get through a live stream recording without devolving into a coughing fit. I was talking to my brother, who was also ill because my whole family got sick over the holidays, about how it sucked to start the year sick. And I kind of feel a little differently. Like, I do like to start the year strong and, start as you mean to go on. You have all these big plans and ideas about how the year will be. But starting off sick makes you slow down. I had to rest. I was forced to rest. I was forced to be slower, to be more contemplative, to be more mindful, which I think are all ultimately net positives about how I want my year to be. So I am, and also not taking my health for granted. When all of these, anytime your status quo is changed, you realize how much you take for granted. When I had surgery, I took for granted everything, being able to walk and being able to move my arm and all of these things. So I am feeling better, and thank you so much, Library Addict. Yes, things are better. I'm still, on the mend, but I'm very grateful to be healthier. In terms of announcements, the Ink and Magic writing retreat applications are still open. They're open until January 16th, 2026. So if you are listening/watching in real time and you are a writer and you would like to join us outside of Baltimore this May for a transformative writing retreat, we've had 2 of these. They've been amazing so far. Check out inkandmagicretreat.com and submit an application. We'll be letting people know very quickly. We've changed how we did it this year a little bit because just trying to be faster on things. So we're doing another retreat/mastermind in the fall for more advanced writers. And all of that is available on inkandmagicretreat.com. So this week's best thing, I turned in the copy edits for The Inevitable Undoing of Zahara Douglas, the book that releases August 11th of this year. And that felt good. I reread it again. I don't know how many times I've read it, but it's always good. I had been given time away from it, so I reread it with as fresh eyes as I could, and had to just think about word choice. I actually was going to make a post that I still might do today or sometime soon, because the copy editor, and I ended up requesting and got the same copy editor from Daughter of the Merciful Deep, because that was the most intense copy edit I'd ever experienced, and I loved it. It was hard, and I loved it. So she came back, and so there's certain words, there's certain crutches that writers use, and every time I'm alerted of a crutch, I do try to incorporate that information and not rely on it so much. So in my earlier books, people sighed a lot. People were always looking, they were gazing, and so I'm conscious of the fact that I use a lot of gazing and looking and sighing. So this time, I had all new words. I ended up writing down the page numbers every time I used the word chest, throat, and stomach, because my characters are having all kinds of chest, throat, and stomach reactions. I try to write with visceral reactions so that you can show and not tell how someone's feeling. It's a technique that I learned from Margie Lawson, who's a writing teacher. Great writing teacher. She has an immersion class. She has lots of classes. And she's a big proponent of visceral reactions. So apparently I'm just focused on certain body parts. So I haven't counted, but it was something like 60 times in the manuscript where someone's chest was doing something, like her heart was beating out of her chest, or her chest tightened, or her chest felt empty or hollow. And sometimes it was 2 times on the page. Sometimes it was 3 times on the same page. So I wrote down all the page numbers, and I went through and I cut half of them or changed them to other types of reactions. Same thing with throat. It was something like 60 times. Stomach was a little bit better, but the copy editor did tell me that she expected Zahara to have some sort of stomach illness, be diagnosed at some point because of all of the stomach reactions. So not so much in the sighing and the gazing, but like I will have to beware of my chest, throat, stomach situations and fisting of hands. Hands are always being clenched into fists to show a reaction. Anyway, I got through all that, made those changes in addition to all of the other copy editing things. And so that's back to the proofreaders. I'm expecting ARCs in the next month or two, and that will be exciting to hold it in my hands. I did the acknowledgments and the epigraph. So for the last 2 books, I've had an epigraph in mind. The epigraph is the little quote usually or something at the beginning of the book. Sometimes I have chapter epigraphs. There's no chapter epigraphs in this book, but I didn't have something in mind. And then the production designer put a space in the manuscript for a dedication and an epigraph. And I was like, oh, I usually do dedicate my books. But I was like, do I have an epigraph? And I went through my notes and I went through my research notes. And since the book takes place in 1999, I was tempted. My first thought was to have a quote from the Prince song. And I was like, A, I don't know if we can do that, if we have to clear real song lyrics that are not in public domain. And B, that doesn't actually fit. It would be funny. And then I actually ended up with something that was at the top of my notes file. It's a quote from an interview from a poet, Kamal Braithwaite, who is a Caribbean poet. And it's not an actual piece of the poetry. I looked for a poem, but I didn't have a poem that had really inspired it. But this quote, I realized actually did inspire some of the fantastical aspects of this book. And so I will save that reveal for when you get the book. But it's odd a little bit. The past 2 books have been poems. And for Monsters We Defy, the title came from the poem that is the epigraph. And then even for Daughter of the Merciful Deep, there was a poem that really, some of, I think it was Olive Senior's poetry really inspired certain aspects of the fantastical world again. And for this one, it was just this little quote that I actually found this quote in a research paper. I do a lot of looking through research papers at the early stages. I think it came from when I was researching the Monsters We Defy because I did it during COVID and I relied a lot on JSTOR, which is a database of journals and scholarly articles and magazines and things like that. So sometimes I'll be searching and I'll find a PDF of someone's PhD thesis that's on a topic, and it'll have little tidbits and nuggets that inform the writing process. So that's where I first saw this quote from this interview. And Kamal Braithwaite was a poet that I actually had been researching for Daughter. And so a lot of like the research that I did for Monsters went into Daughter, and then Daughter went into this book, even though Zahara is not a historical, well, it's 1999, so it is, but like not in the same way that Monsters and Daughter were. But I'm not dealing with the same kind of magic system because I think of, even though Daughter is not a sequel to Monsters, it's like a spiritual sibling. There's a lot of the magic system that is different but related. I went in a slightly different direction for Zahara, but there's still roots there. And I think it's just me, like the connection is me. The book is different. And I was actually talking to my brother yesterday, same conversation, about since, Zahara is a different thing for me, there's always that worry about whether the readers will still like it. Like, it's still me, it still comes from the same place, but I'm always trying to push and stretch myself. It is an investigation. Originally, I wanted it to be more of a thriller, like a techno fantasy thriller. And I don't know that it is that. It's certainly not going to be marketed as a thriller. I'm not sure it even is a thriller. Like, what does that even mean? It's a Leslye thriller in the same way that Monsters is a Leslye heist, which is still a heist, but I'm not sure that this is actually even a thriller. But that was part of my inspiration. It's a different book than any of the others. And thinking about, wanting my audience still to like it and to appreciate it, even though it is a different vibe and different energy. but it's still me. So hopefully if you like what I write, you will like it, and we'll find out soon. Anyway, in terms of my writing update, I haven't done any real writing in the past few weeks. The copy edits take me, since I reread everything and I read it very carefully, so I can't skim through it. I have to really think about the questions and the word choice, and especially when I'm replacing words, even though it does sometimes happen that like I replaced a chest with a throat, and then I was like, oh no, then I had to go back and change it because I still had too many throats. It's a very like mentally intensive activity reviewing the copy edits. So that was during my writing time. I didn't actually do any new words. And however, I did sort of take on a spontaneous reading / writing challenge. So the Ray Bradbury challenge is something that I think I've talked about many years ago on the podcast when I was reading Zen and the Art of Writing, his book on writing, which I don't know if I actually even finished that book. Anyway, Ray Bradbury has a thing where he says, in order to basically fill the well, writers should every night for 1,000 nights read one poem, one short story, and one essay, and then write a short story a week for a year. And it seems very cool. It seems like a cool thing to do. It also seems completely impossible. But I saw on Instagram a writer friend of mine, Kaya Alderson, was doing it. And I commented like, oh, that's great. I always wanted to do that. I never could. And then I was like, well, maybe I can just try, And she had said, and I agree, like doing it even for a week would be a win. And so I was like, well, I'm going to try to do it for a week. And so that was Monday. And I've done it the past 4 days. I plan to do it today. And I haven't read, well, actually, I have read a full short story every day. I modified it to be a page of a short story and a page of an essay, and poetry is relatively easy to read. I've been reading like 5 or 6 poems a day. But I picked 3 books I had off my shelf because I do have some of these books I haven't read yet. I buy them. I don't always read them. So I had the completed works of Lucille Clifton. Originally I picked up Bloodchild by Octavia Butler, which is a book of short stories, but I have read that. And then I realized I bought a Nalo Hopkinson short story collection a couple of years ago at a conference and haven't read it yet, which is Falling in Love with Hominids. And so I've been using that as my short story collection. And then I have a book of essays that I bought a couple years ago and never read, which is, I believe it's called The History of Black Women in America. And I will find the title and put it in the show notes after I record. Something like that. So I've been reading part of an essay each night. I've ended up reading a short story every night. And these short stories they're fantastic. I love Nalo Hopkinson as an author. They're wild. Some of them are like, ooh, and some of them are like, what is that? But they are doing the job of filling the well. You do this so you have plenty of material to draw from in your own writing. Now, as for writing a short story every week, I actually did try. I decided I was going to do flash fiction and maybe even drabbles. So a drabble is a 100-word short story. I think it's supposed to be exactly 100 words. I did write a 100-word short story. It is terrible. Maybe I will show it to you at some point, but maybe not. But I'm going to try to write at least a drabble every week for however long I can, just because I always talk about inertia, and that's why I like to keep writing as much as possible and not have breaks. Breaks can be good, but breaks can also just break the momentum. And I sat down. So initially I was going to try to just draft a short story. So I have my story engine deck, which is a deck of cards that I use to bring some randomness into story writing. I realized when I reread the Infinite Library, the Eternal Library, that 3 time travelers walk into a ... story that I did for an anthology with the Queen of Sheba, Zora Neale Hurston, and Tituba. That story was inspired by the story engine deck. I had pulled cards. I found where I wrote down the prompt. So I had a great prompt. It was really cool. Let me see if I can find it because I took a picture of the cards. And so there's like different categories of cards that you pull, and then there's different kind of spreads, if you will. So the prompt that I pulled ended up being: a powerful witch with an invention wants to erase a memory of an ancient letter, but they will lose their life's work. And I was like, ooh, I had this vision of this witch character who has, she's an inventor and she's traveling to erase these memories of this ancient letter that has somehow spawned this great religion that has resulted in destruction and death across the world. And I sat down to try to write it, and it was terrible. I'm always very hard on myself with first drafts. And often I look back at it and it's not that bad, but it felt very bad to write and it didn't go anywhere. And I thought the prompt was actually really cool. And I think I will try it again, maybe in a couple of days or maybe today or tomorrow. But I also felt like rusty. And so I have to clean off the dust and the rust of the writing muscles because they have been atrophying for the past month or so. When did I finish the script? Oh, November. So I really didn't write new words in December at all. But like, I know I've been doing this a long time, and I know that I can clean the dust off. I can scrape off the rust and get back to writing. But it's moments like those when you just feel like, did I lose it? Like, there's a legitimate fear that I've lost the ability to write, which is completely irrational. But also, I was ill and my brain is a little cloudy. So that is the challenge that I'm still doing. I'm having a good time reading these essays and short stories and poetry. And I'm going to try, for as long as I'm able to do this, to do it from books on my shelf that I have not yet read, because I feel like there are many. I'll do a brief 2025 year in review because I'm still doing my planning for 2026. I'm slow walking it, partially because of illness, partially just because I want to just take a little extra time to do it. But a year ago yesterday, I had surgery on my arm. I had my cubital tunnel surgery. They moved my nerve. It's taken a full year to heal. Still some numbness in my pinky, but almost 100% back. My grip strength is pretty decent. I'm not having the issues I was having with sitting and writing. I'm trying to be careful. So that has been a wonderful blessing to actually heal from that. And I'm very grateful for that. The last year was my year of no in terms of events and taking on things and just saying no to more so I could rest after a very, very busy 2024. And I think it went really well. I did still say yes to things. And I realized this year, I'm not in a year of no. I have said yes to many things. So I have to figure out the balance between saying no to most things and not overwhelming myself. But I do have a book to promote this year, so I will have to be very active, or I feel like I should be. Like, I do want to get the word out about this book. I really love it. And I want to be saying yes to things. I do enjoy activities, promotion things, many of them. There was a video that I watched from Becca Syme from the Better Faster Academy, and I think I want to incorporate this into my thinking about no versus yes. I have my decision matrix, and I was redoing that this week. And I might redo it again with this in mind. So she asks 5 questions about what you should be doing. Like, rank these things 1 to 10. So she had a whole list of potential activities, and then rank 1 to 5 your enjoyment of them, 1 to 10 your enjoyment of them. What are you the best at? What gives you the most energy? What is having the most success in your genre? And what fits the best for your financial model? And that is a really great mindset to have. That's already sort of incorporated in my decision matrix, but I want to really tease out some of these things more individually. Now, I don't know exactly, number 4, what is having the most success in your genre. I am a very poor judge of that. She suggested joining Facebook groups and Discord servers in order to figure out that information, which is a great suggestion. Not going to do it. I cannot keep up with those things. So I might focus on the other 4 and see if I can get some anecdotal evidence about my genre. This book, Sahara, is being marketed as contemporary fantasy. So it's different than my previous traditionally published books with Orbit, and I have no idea what's working with contemporary fantasy. So that will be something I have to continue to think about. some things that were on my list to do last year that I actually did, finally at the end of the year, I cleaned my MailerLite email list. Which means I cut the list by half. So cleaning your email list for your newsletter kind of means you figure out the people who haven't opened in, I think I chose the past 6 months or 7 months, and you send them a re-engagement sequence to see if they still want to be in your list. And if they don't click or open any of those mails, you delete them. And so it kind of sucks to see your list be cut in half, but it's also nice to prune it and your open rates go up, and you know the people who are there want to be there and they're engaged, and that is good. A lot of the things that I had goals for last year didn't happen, but I did do the special edition of the Bliss Wars. At the end of last year, I did actually redesign the covers for Angel Born and Angel Fall, and I'm going to put them out as a flip book. Maybe don't listen to any dates I say, but I had a calendar. I think I wanted to do it maybe like March. I wrote down when those books came out because it's the 11-year anniversary of both of those this year too. And I did check Goodreads to see, and I wrote it down on one of these documents. Okay, so Angel Born first came out in April of 2015. And so by April, expect this flip book to exist in the world. Because I never really put those books out in print. There were a few copies around that I sold. I think I did print a few copies of Angel Born. I had it laid out. I think I did it at a conference or two, but they were never widely available. So I was really excited about doing this flip book. Librariatic says, thank goodness, having 1999, 2000 marketed as historical may have been too much for me. Me too, yes. And although the idea, it feels contemporary-ish, but it's in that weird place. I don't know. So yeah, I think 2025 is a pretty decent year. The year ahead, my goals for 2026. I really am focused on showing up more and promoting my backlist more, in addition to promoting Sahara Douglas more. I want to finish writing Blitches this spring, my Black Witches book, and get to my agent by May. We're going to say May 1st. That is the goal. I'm having a lot of problems I haven't in my head because I have not even reread the script that I wrote, for real. I did the first draft as a script. But I know that there was a lot that didn't get into it. So I'm kind of just reimagining it. I just have to sit down and start working on it, which will probably happen next week. But I'm going back and forth about tone. I'll probably talk about that more in the future. It's still, I'm just going back and forth about what I want the book to be. What's the tone of it? And does that match my interest? Does it match the vision? Does that match what the marketplace? Less marketplace, because who knows what the market is going to be whenever this book comes out, but like more about just me. What is it? How am I shaping it? Those are questions I have to figure out. My focus areas for the year: branding and platform, audience and visibility, and mindset and sustainability. And so those actually probably have nothing to do with, but like those is where my focus is. I picked a word of the year. My brain is still not completely firing 100%. I picked a word of the year. My word of the year is audacity. And that is how I want to show up more and challenge myself to get out of my comfort zone a little bit more and to just be showing up more, maintaining authenticity, not trying to do all these things that everyone else is doing, but like, how do I show up authentically for me that feels good? And that is pushing me outside of the place where I've been for a long time and I've been comfortable. I have some other goals and plans that I'm going to be taking this weekend to really do my 2026 planning, and I'm excited about that. Princess says, love Becca's videos. How do you balance the market and staying true to your own authenticity? That is really the question. And I'm kind of looking at my brand again I'm tweaking my logo. I want to redo my website. In terms of thinking about, okay, what am I writing? How am I showing up? All of these questions are all kind of grouped together in my mind. And so as a person who's publishing traditionally, even publishing, self-publishing, like, you have to think about the market. Like, I want the readers to find the book, to enjoy the book, for it to be relevant, but also I have to write the books that I have to write, you know? And so I think where I'm landing right now is, I know that I'm not writing to market. I'm not writing in the most marketable genres. I don't plan to be writing more romantasy, for example, because that's not really sparking joy for me. The way the way romantasy has gone, I'm not super interested in that. So like, trying to find other people who maybe are tired of reading the same book over and over again, or aren't seeing the thing they want to see in the books that are super popular and being published. People who are wanting, like, my unique value proposition is what they call it in marketing, what I provide, what I do differently. And leaning into that and knowing that if I am interested in that, the people who like my other books will probably be interested in that as well. And it means not always listening to all of the best practices and all of the advice that's given, because I don't necessarily think that it applies to me all the time. So like, in terms of Becca's list, try to find it again. Okay. Things that I enjoy and that I'm good at and that give me energy. I do believe that even though I'm a unique individual, there are other people out there. Like, if you like any of my books, there's some Venn diagram where we overlap, and focusing on that overlap and not trying to focus on things that don't align with me that might be more popular, you know? So I'm still writing commercial fiction. I'm still following genre expectations. You know, if I write a book that's a romance, it's going to have a happily ever after. If I write a book that's more fantasy, it might be a little bit more bittersweet, but I still think my promise to the reader is ultimately a positive experience. I don't want to write things that bring you down and are like tragedies necessarily. But yeah, so that's kind of how I think about like market and authenticity. And it's something that I'm constantly thinking about, because even as I'm writing Blitches, you know, I'm trying not to have the market in my head too much. It's there, and it's all about figuring out that overlap of what is true to myself that I think the market will respond to in some way. And it's a lot of kind of soul searching. It's a lot of some of it is a lot of just ignoring things. I'm trying to be better at that, because I am high input and high learner, and I'm taking in all this information, and I like to learn it. I like to know it. I think it helps me help writers. It helps me sort of monitor things and see what's going on. But in my own writing, in my own marketing and my own just business in general, I find that I do have to take that knowledge and then like put it in the closet and not pay attention to it, because it doesn't always help me. And oh yeah, what I'm reading and watching, I did want to mention that I watched the show Plur1bus. It's a new Vince Gilligan. It's a good show. It's very slow, and so I don't think I'm the biggest fan of it. I liked the ideas it was confronting. I don't think it needed to be 9 episodes. It could have wrapped that up in 6. If you're on the fence, give it a shot, but know that it's a very slow paced television show. But it did inspire me to go back and watch Better Call Saul, which I had never watched. I'd seen Breaking Bad. I think I caught up by the time the last season ended. So I'm watching the first season of Better Call Saul and trying to fill the well. I think this is a good fill the well period, in addition to my modified Ray Bradbury challenge. I'm also reading The Star Seekers by Nicole Glover, because I have this event with her next week. It is online and in person, so if you're not in the DC area and can't visit us in person, please check it out online. It's at East City Bookshop, and I will put a link in the show notes afterwards. And I love Nicole's books so much. And so The Star Seekers is another mystery. It's in the 60s, and I'm enjoying that a lot. I'm also reading a book that was recommended to me years ago by a retreater, one of our Ink and Magic retreat attendees, Mariah Kingsley. And it's called Playing Big by Tara Marr. And it's also extremely good. It's designed for women, like entrepreneurs and business people. And it's about, showing up bigger and how women tend to minimize our accomplishments, and there's all the socialization and like things involved in that, and how to just show up for yourself more. And so I'm really enjoying that, and I would recommend that. I'm halfway through. I have the audiobook, and I bought the print book so I could highlight and take notes and things. And finally, I'm talking for too long. Okay, to wrap this up, this morning I was on Instagram before Freedom shut me out of Instagram because I'm blocked for half the day. But so I try to get in. I try to see if people, respond to comments and things like that on my posts. But I saw Erykah Badu's post from a few weeks ago, and she had this sort of invocation for the new year that I thought was extremely good, and I wanted to share it with you all. So what Erykah Badu said, and I will link this also, is that we wish you a happy new year, and wishing you abundance, prosperity, resilience, health, clarity, perspective, wisdom, guidance, courage, freedom, sanity, solo-mindedness, flow, fluidity. Be a strong dreamer and a strong believer. I hope and wish these things for you. And I hope and wish them for you as well. I hope that you're having a wonderful new year. As a reminder, you can sign up for the Footnotes newsletter, which includes all of the links and show notes for each episode, as well as inspiration, strategies, and ideas to help you grow as a creative person. And that is at myimaginaryfriends.net/footnotes. You could also choose to become an imaginary best friend for a few dollars a month and get access to extra posts, discounts on courses. We're doing the craft book club again, which I will announce soon. I hope that you can join me there, and I hope that you're having a good new year, and that it is full of wonderful things. Thank you so much, everyone who was here live and everyone who was listening after the fact, and I will talk